Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Charter Revision Commission. Tonight is Tuesday, January 20th. And I'm going to turn it over to our secretary, Angela Jameson, to read the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Case?
Here.
Ms. Corbett?
Here.
Ms. Holm? Here. Ms. Jameson? Here. Mr. Kimes?
Here.
Mr. Lampert?
Here.
Mr. Labrie?
Here.
Ms. Neville?
Here.
Mr. Parlow?
Here.
Mr. Parrett?
Here.
On Zoom. Miss Willett?
Here.
And thank you. Could we also check who else we have on Zoom?
Currently, we have Mr. Correct, Karen Burke, Peter Bardheit, apologies if I slaughter names, and Tucker Murphy.
Thank you and welcome, everyone.
If you want to
So
spell it.
I'm calling the meeting to order, and I will say just, he has,
Just joined.
Karen is taking our minutes. Yep. She's online. I'm going to ask that everybody, and actually just, I'm going to take a page from the playbook of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Before, when you speak, just say your name. So we can, so Karen can take that up in the notes, and people who are watching also can follow along as to who's speaking. So I'll try to get that right myself. I probably won't do it, but I'm Kathleen Corbett. And the first item on our agenda is to cover the minutes from January 6th. And Angela, have you gotten comments?
I have not received any comments. Would
Okay.
anybody like to give me comment here and now?
Anybody have any comments on the January 6th meeting? Okay, well done. Those minutes are done. So all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is our public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak to the Charter Revision Commission on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. We don't have any votes today. You're requested to provide your names. You don't have to give me your street address, and your comments are going to be limited up to 3 minutes, obviously, depending on how big the audience is here in terms of the number of speakers. So do we have any speakers? Anybody who wants to speak now? Well, you're going to be speaking.
You're on.
You're on the agenda.
Your schedule.
You're on the agenda. The rest of the public. Anybody online? Roy, did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I don't want to work.
You don't want to go first? Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak by raising your hand? Russ will tell us if there's anybody raising
As
their
of
hand.
now, none.
No? Okay.
We were also starting last time we were asked to include everyone who's present.
Polio vaccine first.
You mean for the minutes?
Roy Brown.
Yeah, we can pick it up and we'll tell it. Okay, Roy?
Testing.
Yep, everything?
Yeah, good.
Yep. Go ahead, Roy. 3
All right.
minutes.
Roy Abramowitz, I'll use my business address, 112 Main Street.
Okay, not necessary. Go ahead.
I've been here 30 years. I think you know me.
Yep.
Okay, I read the letters that were submitted, and I just want to say I disagree with the letters. I think they were self-serving. There's stale ideas and conflicts of interest. The problem is that the current structure of town bodies is autocratic. It depletes segregation of duties and lacks transparency and reportability to the town's electorate. When a town commission ignores 2,000 pages of record and ignores the safety of neighborhood children and residentially zoned population, there is no reportable responsibility to the populace. As witnessed over many years, establishing the Board of Selectmen as kings and queens allows many, not all, for biased appointments based on personality, not qualification. When a member of the P&Z recommends changing long-standing residential zoning into a commercial overexpanded zoning area to the detriment of safety and established property rights, that is prima facie evidence that an appointed board is not properly functioning or representative of the community's interest, but the personal interest of the appointed, not elected commission members. If elected, many bad decisions made in the past would have been different. as the determination of reelection would not be made by a single person, Board of Selectmen, but the community at large. New Canaan has grown geometrically, and the current structure of town bodies must be changed to better represent the community, not an autocratic my way or the highway government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronwitz. You can, if you want to leave those.
Does somebody need this? I
You just leave them there. I'll
If you want the minutes.
thank you. Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you, Roy.
Well,
Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda then. This is going to be just, I'd like you to give us a summary. Each of your groups have been very active recently. What I think we're going to start with is the public survey, which has been launched now 2 weeks? More than that.
Little less.
Oh, less than 2 weeks. Okay, all right, but, okay,
Yeah,
why
it's
don't you give us an
about a week
update?
And a few days.
Commissioner Holm?
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Commissioner Holmes,
Yeah,
sorry, about that. Yeah, so, up until Sunday, we had 19 responses. As of this evening,
can you put your mic on?
oh,
That would help, yes.
Okay.
we've up to 37. So it has been published in the New Canaanite. Sentinel is coming. Karen has done,
Well, town employees.
town employees,
um,
right? They
Yeah,
did
the New Canaan Moms Facebook page, places like that, yeah.
Yep, and then.
And the DTC, the RTC,
yeah.
sent them out to their members and their news list.
Great. Yep, terrific. There's also in the First Selectmen's newsletter too.
And
so,
correct, we
yeah.
worked with Tucker and others to put in this first Selectmen's newsletter. So it's up and running.
Great.
And
Preservation did a huge,
Preservation
Spit on
wrote
it.
an email
Yeah.
to get members, so that's gone out as well. So from Sunday to now, we're up to 37 people, from 19 to 37.
wow.
So the plan is, and you're going to start to put together a document of all of the responses and so forth. We've seen the early draft of that. We're going to post those to the public packet when
Yep.
we.
So
produce everything.
every 2 weeks, I'll put together just on by Sunday, the package. We can review if you have questions, and basically aggregate the results. What I did do in making the package is basically everyone who have made a comment, I put into the package, misspellings, spellings, whatever it was related to the question, and published those as well. And then I did send out an Excel if you wanted to look at the raw detail. And if you'd like to see survey by survey, I can also make that as well. So you can see how each person answered in a much more PDF form. Yep.
And that form, the spreadsheet form, that includes their names?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Okay.
IP address,
Okay.
street address, name, email address, et cetera. Yeah.
And perhaps maybe in the summary portion, would you consider maybe just a separate page? Doesn't have to be tied to the actual comments, or maybe you want it to be either way, but just a list of who has responded. So the third, just we can have
Why don't we
a
make it,
tracking.
we can have an appendix. I'll put that in the
Appendix would
appendix.
be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
No problem.
Super.
Was the link in each of the papers as well?
Yes.
I mean, the actual, okay.
Yep.
good, Yeah, that was. yeah,
And
I
it's
knew the
also on
article.
our
I remember
website.
the
And it's also on
article,
our
yeah.
website. They kindly published it on our webpage. So if you want to go there, it's available there. And yeah, we're getting great uptick.
That's super. Karen, did you want to add anything to
No.
that? Okay, great. Any other questions about the survey? Okay, great.
Kathleen, Bill, I just heard that it was sent to the RTC, by the RTC to their members. If I got that correctly.
Yes. Commissioner
Well,
Rhodes.
I should say I requested and Melanie said that she would. I'm not on the list, so I haven't confirmed that happened, but that was the idea.
Okay. Well, so therefore you presumably also requested of the DNC?
Yes. Yeah, the DTC sent it out.
And is there a way of reaching the independent members of the community, either through Claudia or some other way?
That's a good question. I don't think that the town keeps like email addresses on registered voters. That's something that we have. The DTC just has people signed up. It's not like we can send it to every Republican or every Democrat either in town. It's whoever's on our mailing list.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Might be worth asking
possible.
Claudia.
Yeah, we could take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, great. Let's move on to then, if I can start with then group 1. Just a summary of your most recent findings. I'm looking over at group 1. Give a couple, you've had a couple of meetings, just some
Yeah.
highlights.
So we made good progress. This is Angela Jameson. We've made good progress on the theme-based topics that we were given, elections versus appointments. There, the plan is to come up with a neutral report that lists pros and cons of elections versus appointments, as well as general issues that every member of the CRC might like to consider as we make decisions about individual government bodies, whether they should be, whether we want to recommend that they should be elected or appointed. So we're probably, halfway through that. We've also had a very good discussion of Article 1. Joe came up with some great suggestions there, and we're continuing that work.
Joe, do you want to summarize some of those?
We looked at about 20
This is
issues.
Commissioner Paolo.
Oh,
Yep.
This is Joe Paulo, Commissioner Paulo. We looked at about 20 issues, and if you look at Article 1, it's really a very eclectic collection of things that have been stapled together probably over decades. Those 20 items have been boiled down to 6 that we think are actionable. We are in general agreement on these 6. Just to give you some idea of coming attractions, 1 will be discussing the town seal. Other towns take steps to protect their seal and require certain thresholds if you're going to use it, who can and can't use it. We looked at the commissions versus committees nomenclature, so we'll have a recommendation on that and a few other areas. But I would say there's probably 6, I think, very constructive areas that we're in broad agreement on. We tend to finalize that tomorrow.
Okay, great. Anything else from group 1?
Well, we do have some interviews. We interviewed Dr. Lutzi, the superintendent of schools, last Wednesday. Tomorrow, we're going to be interviewing members of the Board of Ed. The Inland Wetlands Commission members are going to be interviewed on the 26th of January. And we have the town clerk penciled in for the 17th of February at a full CRC meeting.
So all these meetings are being posted as special meetings to the
Yes.
CRC website with agendas. So all those, and I'll just remind everybody, when we're holding a special meeting, whether it's a special meeting of the full commission or the groups, keep to the agenda. Okay, if there's anything, you can't really add anything to the agenda. So let's be mindful of that. Don't add anything. You can always move it to the next meeting if there's an item that comes up during that discussion. So stick to your agenda. Okay. Anything else for group 1?
No.
Okay, group 2. Now that we're all together, and we've got actually a couple of dates on the calendar, and we've got a couple of things.
Almost
lined
all
up.
our people who want to be interviewed have been slotted time. We're still trying to find 2 for the evening for ZBA.
Okay.
We'll work with you.
This is Jennifer Holmes.
Oh, Jennifer Holmes,
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
To basically get the Board of Finance done. The one group I've reached out now numerous times on is the Board of Conservation. I will actually follow up and maybe come to their meeting and make a plea directly to them
Sure.
to support that, to help that.
That's the chair there.
I can tell you in a second.
Okay.
Yep, but I've emailed each one of them individually as well. But overall, we start our interview process basically on the 29th, a Thursday.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll coordinate with group 3.
Tom Cronin. Okay.
Yep.
I'll reach out to him too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Group 3, because we will be overlapping on the day. We will be sharing this room.
Yeah.
Okay.
On which day?
Thursday,
the
the
20th.
29th is
Yeah,
when we
that's
start.
what we.
Yep, that's what we agreed to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And then.
And
group
then
3.
I'm sorry, I'll put on the calendar 2 times for the group to start going through the articles and we can finish up some research.
Great. Okay. Anybody else want to add to that? No? Okay. Group 3.
We basically started our interviews
This
last
is
week.
Commissioner Neville.
Yeah.
That's-
Sorry,
that's
everybody.
okay.
And we started with Kevin and the Board of Selectmen. We finished the Board of Selectmen tomorrow, the rest of them. And then the 29th, we move on to a few. And then we're trying to get it finished, almost finished maybe on February 5th. So, yeah, and it's all, we haven't posted it yet, but it's done. I mean, those are all, it's just the time it takes to get all these people back and forth and return. We also met with Sebi and the tax, which was really interesting. It was a
Yeah,
good
no,
one.
that was a good.
Yeah,
session.
we haven't done the article. We haven't really gotten into that yet
So all of these meetings are also put on the,
fully.
put on the videos. So those are available for review as
I've
well.
had some people call me. I don't know why it's so hard to find our agendas on the town website. But this is a complaint I'm getting. I don't know
Okay,
if anybody
so
has
pretty,
any
to-
suggestions.
To find the agendas, minutes,
Yeah,
public packet,
Yeah, public
videos,
packets too. Yeah.
they're all in the same space.
Yeah.
They're all under newcanaan.info. They're under commissions. They're under the Charter Revision Commission.
Mhm.
And for 2026, we also have for 2025, all of them listed. You click on it, goes to Documents on Demand, and all of those items are provided.
Maybe
So
that needs to be spelled out in the papers or something. I
Okay.
didn't know it was that hard, but I guess it
It's
is.
actually rather easy, but we'll
I
make
know
that,
it, but I'm
yeah,
just commenting that
That's a
enough
good-
people have said something. I thought, wow.
we'll put
all right.
that out publicly too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so that's review. Anybody else have any other comments on what we've gone through thus far? No? Yep.
Angela Jameson,
Yeah.
a question. I believe we decided that we would try to finish interviews by the end of February.
Correct.
And I'm just assuming that's still our plan.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
I think we're good.
we're doing
Yeah,
it.
we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, now the rest of the meeting is actually going to be dedicated to members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Chairman Radman, Town Planner Terry, and others have submitted numerous letters. There may have been one or two that have come in the last hour or so that haven't been posted. Most of them have been posted to the public packet, which is also on our website. And so I don't know how you'd like to begin, Chairman Radman, but please, first of all, we'd like to invite you to come and speak here. And do know that we've received your material, we've read that, but you're welcome to cover whatever element of that or all of it. And then I know that you have members of the commission that also like to speak, and we welcome them as well.
So sorry to interrupt, Angela Jameson. I'm going to recuse myself from this part of the meeting as my husband is a member of P&Z.
Okay, thank you. I also say, and we just had a brief opportunity to chat, you're going to have everybody sort of cover different elements, right? Or however you'd like to do it. Then we have our own questions, and those will be led by group number one, so Joe Pallo, but all of us will participate in that too, but Joe will lead those questions.
I've just, in the interest of time, I think that's better. Let us each give
Sure.
our own presentation and then come back to questions. So, many of the questions you might have might be answered by a different member making a speech.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
and if it's okay, at the end of mine, Laszlo Papp, whom everyone knows in town, he is not able to attend.
Right.
He did write a letter. He did ask me to read his letter during the meeting.
Fine.
So it's a single pager. I told him I would.
Okay, very good.
So, thank you for having us. My name is Dan Radman. I appreciate you guys giving us time to discuss this topic. I am the current chairman of the New Canaan Planning and Zoning Commission. I've been on the P&Z since 2011 and been chairman since 2022. I'm a licensed architect and have been working in the field for over 35 years. As an architect, I've needed to present to many Fairfield County P&Z commissions and boards on various project submissions. And I can tell you that the New Canaan P&Z is one of the most well-informed, experienced, fair, and balanced commissions, specifically for many of the reasons I will list below. In my time on P&Z, there have been many commissioners that have come and gone for various reasons, but we've always been able to maintain a deep bench of commissioners with varied backgrounds and that bring a wealth of experience to the P&Z. In my opinion, having appointed P&Z commissioners is more advantageous than elected positions because their selection is based on relevant experience, background, and commitment to the commission, and it helps insulate long-term planning decisions from short-term political pressures in election cycles. Some of the advantages: vetting of candidates. The current process to bring a new commissioner to the P&Z involves multiple interviews and steps in the vetting process. Your commission here is appointed as well and went through a similar vetting process, I'm sure. A candidate is first engaged by the RTC or DTC to determine interest and qualification. Those candidates are then referred to the first selectman's office. In the case of an independent, that person would engage with the first selectman's office directly. After review by first selectman, the candidates are then interviewed by myself or the current chairman. In this case, Krista Nielsen, the secretary, so that us two representatives of P&Z will have that discussion with the candidate. And then that to gauge experience and qualifications. And then that recommendation is sent back to the first selectman's office for final decision. Specialized expertise. Appointing P&Z officials allows the governing body to select individuals with specific knowledge, skill, and experience in fields crucial to planning, such as urban design, engineering, environmental science, or law. This ensures more competent, informed decision-making on complex technical matters. We also like to reduce political bias and conflicts of interest. Appointed commissioners are generally less influenced by election cycle politics or the need to campaign for public favor. This can help them maintain impartiality and avoid the appearance of bias when making quasi-judicial decisions on specific development applications or variances. Where there is a conflict of interest, similar to what we just saw here from Ms. Jameson, the respective commission member will recuse themselves from that application in order to maintain a fair and balanced application and hearing. Consistency and long-term vision. The planning process involves creating and implementing a long-range master plan for the community's future growth. Appointed boards typically have more stable tenure, which provides crucial continuity and consistency in implementing the long-term vision, rather than having policies shift drastically with every election cycle. Many of the required regulatory initiatives, like the POCD, for example, are on a 10-year cycle of renewal. Commissioners with longer standing and institutional knowledge are critical to the successful implementation of those types of initiatives. Just take, for example, the former members like Laszlo Papp, John Goodwin, and Jean Grzlecki, all of whom served on the commission for 15 to 20 or more years. I myself have spent 15 years on the commission, 1/4 of my life. Better coordination with professional staff. Appointed boards often lead to more streamlined and professional working relationship with the town or city planning staff. The planner typically works for the town administrator and manager, allowing the better coordination across various town projects and reducing potential friction between the board and elected governing bodies and other departments. Representation of diverse segments. The appointment process that's already structured to ensure representation from important community segments, such as local groups focusing on natural resources like the Land Trust or historic preservation, fostering collaboration and buy-in on projects when necessary. Legality of elected positions. This is a critical one. Switching to election-based commissioners will disqualify many professionals out there, such as attorneys or potentially other industry professionals like engineers and architects, from running for office, as it is common for those types of firms, depending on their structure and their requirements, to prohibit employees from running for elected office. That would exclude the very type of professional experience that we're trying to include on the commission. As an example, Eric Knowles, who is one of the current commissioners, he is a land use attorney in New York City. He is very qualified to be on the commission, lends a lot of expertise and insight into our applications, but he's prohibited by his employer from running for elected office. So we would lose his expertise on the commission if it went to elected. Accountability. I've heard that word thrown around a lot 2 weeks ago. P&Z Commission is definitely held accountable to the town and its residents. Decisions we make on applications must be supported by our approved zoning code regulations and the POCD, and need to comply with all state of Connecticut laws and regulations. Our decisions are not based on whims or favors, but rather on concrete evidence in the application submitted and adherence to all applicable laws and regulations. We always consider the interests and concerns of neighbors, and those neighbors always have the ability to speak up and express those concerns and opinions. And the neighbors always have the ability to request a zoning code modification if they feel their particular application is a unique situation that our current zoning code doesn't address. That option is always available. Further to the point of public input, we always make sure that the town's residents are involved in as much as possible in larger initiatives we undertake. For example, the POCD, which we completed last year. That was over 14 months. We had 3 public workshops, 2 public surveys, and public comment welcome during all subcommittee meetings. The forum is there and the process is there to take public comment as necessary for all things related to P&Z. We're currently undergoing a zoning regulation amendment effort that we've had 1 public workshop so far with 2 more planned over the next year. That will bring us to an updated and amended zoning regulation that will help to clean up and clarify a lot of the things that weren't picked up in the last regulation amendment, which was 2007. In summary, I would like to use the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We have a unique town where all our P&Z Commission members take their roles very seriously, and we consider ourselves curators of the town in terms of development, aesthetic, and conservation. I would at least like to see that continued.
Thank you, Mr. Redmond.
Thank you. This is from Laszlo Papp. He is not able to attend due to health issues, but he did want this read out. To all members of the Charter Review Committee. As part of the Charter Review process, some members of the Charter Review Committee want to change New Canaan's charter to elect Planning and Zoning Commission members instead of the current appointment system. Based on my experience, electing P&Z members would subject these members to political pressure. We, the chairmen of Planning and Zoning Commissions, P&Z, of the neighboring towns, used to have monthly discussions of current issues and problems in our communities. This continues today and is beneficial for the chairman of those towns to understand the pressures of the towns that those towns are facing. I learned that the towns whose P&Z members were elected had many more problems and difficulties in contrast to New Canaan, where members of the P&Z enjoyed friendly discussions and usually made unanimous decisions. The P&Z chairman of the towns represented by elected members often complained that they made decisions often based on political consideration and not on the merits of the issue. They complained that they had many disagreements. The decisions made by P&Z are extremely important for the future of our town as we wrestle with balancing growth and affordable housing and maintaining the character of the community. The current appointment system for selecting P&Z members assures the New Canaan continues to select its P&Z members based on merit and not politics, and guarantees that New Canaan keeps political considerations out of the zoning decisions. What I was very proud of is that no one could ever tell which political party a commission member belonged to based on the discussions and the decisions. Thank you, Laszlo Papp.
On behalf of the commission, thank you to Laszlo and to you. Would you rather have everybody speak next?
I'd rather everyone else speak and then come back to questions if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Who's next then? I'm wondering if it's better, just before you begin, Sarah, I wonder if it's better to have Sarah sit next to
Where
you,
she can
Joe.
face the
So,
camera?
yeah, the camera can pick you out. Sorry about that, but I
Not a
think
good, yeah.
yeah, you can sit in Angela's seat. Perfect.
Hi, how are you? Long time no see.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Sarah Carey, for the record, Town Planner and Senior Enforcement Officer. So multiple charter provisions impact my position. I'm here as a department head, but also in coordination with the Planning and Zoning Department. So I do have this written document that I will submit to you afterwards. There are comments about ZBA on here, so I'm happy to skip over those if we want to focus on planning and zoning, but I'm happy to do either.
Okay. Why don't you carry on? We'll go ahead.
Okay. Do you want me to skip over to ZBA or
How big is it?
It's 2 paragraphs.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, and just for the record, my intention tonight is to really talk about legal standards under which these land use boards operate under. So just so you understand the uniqueness of it, because unless you're in it, it's very different than other boards and commissions in town. So to start with ZBA, it's the clearest example of a board whose structure and authority are dictated almost entirely by state law. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 5-member board with 3 alternates, and its authority is limited to only 2 items: hearing variance applications for specific properties and to hear appeals of actions made by the zoning enforcement officer, meaning myself. So both the number of members and the scope of its authority are explicitly mandated by statute and have been refined even more through decades of case law. The matters before the ZBA are quasi-judicial in nature and require strict impartiality. The board has absolutely no legislative authority, and while public hearings are required, public comment and resident preferences are not factors that directly influence its decisions. It is a highly specialized board that receives relatively few applications, and it often takes more than a year for members to fully understand the procedural and legal nuances involved. From my perspective, and based on my time working in New Canaan, it is unclear what would be gained by electing members to this board rather than appointing them, given their legal constraints. And so I did review the charter fully for ZBA, and I didn't notice any irregularities with with state statute, and I don't really see anything that would need to be amended. It's a pretty straightforward one. So any questions on ZBA? No.
Thank
Okay.
you for that.
So with the Planning and Zoning Commission, again, I really just want to talk about what their roles are that are mandated by state statute, and to really go over the special processes they have to follow for applications to help guide you all as you make this decision and discuss appointed versus elected. So I apologize in advance that it gets a little technical. I'll do my best to, keep it quick. So the commission is responsible for updating and adopting the Plan of Conservation and Development. It's an aspirational policy document mandated by state law and developed with significant public input. New Canaan's POCD was updated last in 2024, and it must be revised every 10 years. So it really serves as a guide for the community, and as required by state statute, is used as a benchmark when evaluating municipal improvements and proposed amendments to zoning regulations. In addition, the commission periodically prepares neighborhood plans, and in the past has produced studies such as the Cross and Vitti Street study and the town's 2022 affordable housing plan. So in addition to this role, the commission also has legislative authority to adopt and maintain subdivision and zoning regulations. And, at the end of the day, the purpose of these regulations is to, one, protect health and safety, promote orderly and cohesive development, and provide consistency and predictability for future growth for residents and the general public. So any individual may propose a change to the regulations. However, the commission must hold a public hearing, they must receive public comment, and they have to determine consistency with the Plan of Conservation and Development prior to adopting any change. During
Can I
my
just ask you a question on that? I
Sure.
heard that earlier. Can that be at any time where somebody from the public can request a change, or?
Yes, so
Okay,
you can always submit an application. There's
I see.
a timeline
There's a
to it, but
process. Okay.
you could submit an application tomorrow.
Okay.
Anything like that.
Thank you.
And so during my time with the commission, these legislative changes have not been made lightly and are always based on relevant evidence submitted by subject matter experts. Most frequently, the commission reviews applications for site plans, subdivisions, and special permits. So these uses and types of applications are items that are expressly permitted under the zoning and subdivision regulations. They require oversight before approval, hence, going before the commission. Provided that an application meets the clearly stated standards, it must be approved. In recent years, the majority of the commission's time has been devoted to reviewing these types of applications. The Planning and Zoning Commission powers are broad, as I've briefly tried to explain to you all, but there is one critical distinction that separates it from currently elected bodies in New Canaan, and I do think it's really important to highlight. The majority of decisions made by the commission are subject to what's called fundamental fairness standards, which require that all decisions pertaining to legislative changes and permit issuances, so those site plans, subdivisions, and special permits I was talking about, that they be based on evidence in the application record. So specifically, rules regarding what's called predetermination, bias, and ex parte communication significantly limit how planning and zoning commissioners may interact with the public in order to protect the integrity of their decision making. So commissioners are prohibited from expressing opinions or engaging in discussions that could suggest they have prejudged an application before a public hearing, as doing so could constitute impermissible predetermination or bias. Likewise, ex parte communications, which are discussions with applicants, opponents, elected officials, or members of the public outside of a notice public hearing, those types of communications are strictly prohibited because they introduce information into the process that is not part of the official record and cannot be tested or rebutted by the applicant. So commissioners must refrain from informal conversations with residents about active or likely applications and instead rely on public hearings and staff communications to ensure that all decisions are based solely on evidence presented openly and on the record. So as a result, members of the public with questions or concerns about planning and zoning matters must speak to town staff, specifically me, rather than going to commissioners with questions. So in addition to that, commissioners cannot speak with one another outside of a public hearing about active or potential matters that come before them. And so these rules do make commissioners less accessible outside of public hearings. And I want to be clear that that limitation is intentional. It's a standard across all municipalities in Connecticut, and it is essential to maintaining the integrity of the commission's decision-making process. And these rules would remain in effect whether the commission is appointed or becomes elected.
That's, sorry for Kathleen Corbett. That standard, do you publicize that on your webpage?
We don't. That's definitely something we could look into. I know a lot of towns struggle with that and the public not understanding that that's how we operate. So we can definitely look into that.
What do the other towns do?
Actually, sorry, Jennifer Home. Actually, they allow direct communication, for instance, in Westport with their members. You can email their members directly to change.
And get a response or just send a directed email?
Sometimes you get a response back.
Okay, well, let's bring that up in the Q&A,
okay,
but
yeah.
okay, sorry for
No,
interrupting.
that was the last of my statements.
Oh,
So
well,
I will turn it over to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're next.
Hold on, thanks. Secretary.
Also, do we have Dan's comments too? Can you send those electronically? Or were you were reading right from what has been
What
previously
did you send
submitted?
to us?
Mine
Yeah,
I was reading from
from, from the
You're asking me to
previously
send
submitted.
those
Yeah, yeah,
electronically.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Chairwoman Corbett and Charter Revision Commissioners, I am John Kriz, a Planning and Zoning Commissioner. My message for you and for all who live in our town is that New Canaan has been blessed for decades with an independent, objective, and energetic team of talented people who have consistently devoted countless hours to ensuring that we live in a town that, to quote our plan of conservation development, preserves our welcoming small town identity, promotes creative, balanced development, embraces sustainability and resiliency, and enhances community infrastructure and facilities. We have a fabulous walkable downtown that is the envy of others. There is no strip development.
Mhm.
Can you name another town of 20,000 souls that can say that? Our town has many housing choices, including wonderful subsidized housing, a source of community pride, with more likely coming. Parks, municipal facilities, walking trails and sports grounds. The list goes on. All are touched by planning and zoning. So how do we keep this record of success going? As Planning and Zoning Chairman Radman noted in his comments, the current appointment process for commissioners is tried and tested. It works. And this process helps create the rich, eclectic range of objective talent we enjoy. It's about generating, nurturing, and sustaining a team that is a carefully curated array of skills to ensure that the best New Canaan has to offer is focused on crucial property issues. Note that I said objective. No one on P&Z has a personal axe to grind. There are no single issue commissioners. We have particular knowledge and interests. housing, historic preservation, environment, but no special interests. Special interests which could emerge should planning and zoning commissioners be elected and perhaps funded by special interests. Add in the potential for log rolling among special interest commissioners, and the risks become far worse. The current appointment system, focused on balance, objectivity, and skills, has served us all well. Please note the letter submitted by former Planning and Zoning Chairman Laszlo Papp, who cited his direct experience with peer chairs of neighboring planning and zoning commissions, who lamented decisions based on political considerations rather than the merits of the issue. Our prior chairman, John Goodwin, has spoken to this commission and echoed this view. Sobering commentary indeed. Note further that Mr. Papp is unaffiliated, Mr. Goodwin is a Democrat, and current Chairman Radman is a Republican. And the letter opposing an elected Planning Zoning Commission submitted to the CRC, signed by all members of our commission, Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliated. I think this is what we call a broad consensus. Furthermore, P&Z commissioners are properly held to a high standard of impartiality. We are all Caesar's wife. Charter revision commissioners can state that they have already made up their minds on an issue. Yep. Ditto for town council and most other boards and commissions. Planning and zoning? Nope, not allowed. Given this impartiality standard, how would a campaign work? Say, I'm objective, and then the wink and nod happens. And then there are the donors who in all likelihood want something for their money. This is a recipe for lawsuits, pointless argumentation, and bad policy. As to the idea of term limits, let me say this. I was given the responsibility about 2 years ago to lead Planning and Zoning's update of New Canaan's Plan of Conservation Development, a major comprehensive document that touches most all aspects of our town. I had been on the commission about 8 years, and prior to joining the commission, I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Truth to tell, it was only at that juncture, with that level of experience, that I felt I developed sufficient understanding to tackle the project properly. Planning and zoning is one of our boards and commissions that demands special knowledge. Knowledge that takes time to develop and is often generally learned on the job. Term limits can threaten that. You want to do something? Change planning and zoning commissioner terms to 4 years and ensure they appreciate not only the work hours involved, and there are a lot, but that being on the commission is not a here today, gone tomorrow exercise. Far from it. It is a long-term commitment of service to our town. There's an old adage, when in doubt, do the right thing. And the right thing for our town's continued livability is to retain the current tried and tested appointment system for planning and zoning. Careful initial vetting by political parties, by the chair of the commission, as well as by the selectmen. Further vetting at reappointment time. And when needed, even a tap on the shoulder from the first selectman for a commissioner of particularly long service that perhaps it's time to consider serving New Canaan in a different fashion. Charter revision commissioners, you have a grave responsibility, and I know you will exercise it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
My name is Krista Nielsen. I am the Secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'm also the Commission's appointee to the Affordable Housing Committee. Although this evening I'm not here to speak in either of those capacities, but I'm certainly happy to answer questions later if you have them. I'm rather here to offer my perspective as a professional planner on the question of elected versus appointed planning and zoning commissioners. So by way of background, for those who don't know me, I have a master's degree in urban planning from Portland State University, and I have worked as a planner in Portland, Oregon, Charlotte, North Carolina, and New Orleans, Louisiana. That experience across 4 states has given me perspective on how different governance structures affect the fairness, consistency, and legal defensibility of land use decisions. One of the things they did not teach me in planning school is how much state zoning enabling legislation affects how zoning in particular is done in a place. Planning theory is kind of the same across the board, but zoning enabling legislation really sets the tone for how zoning is implemented in a place. And it can be very different. Like I've said, this is my 4th state and no 2 have done it the same yet. And I have to say that Connecticut's planning and zoning system under CGS 8-2 is among the strongest that I've experienced in terms of procedural rigor and insulation from political pressure. Sarah and Dan and John already went through some of the legal doctrines that the planning and zoning commissioners have to adhere to. So I'm not going to continue to repeat that, but I'm again happy to talk about it. But those legal doctrines ensure that decisions are accountable to the law, which is a form of accountability that is consistent, transparent, and reviewable. In other jurisdictions where I've worked, elected officials made parcel-specific land use decisions. In Charlotte and New Orleans, that was done by the city council. In both of those places, I observed political negotiations influencing outcomes, which in my opinion undermined the impartiality and consistency of the decision-making. I also observed that public opinion, while essential, is also inherently variable, meeting to meeting, project to project, neighborhood to neighborhood. So when decision makers are held electorally accountable to that variability, similarly situated applications can be treated differently. Connecticut's system deliberately separates those functions. Public values are expressed when zoning regulations are adopted and amended through a democratic process. The Planning and Zoning Commission's role is to apply those democratically adopted standards consistently to individual applications based on the evidence in the record. Given that legal framework, electing planning and zoning commissioners would introduce a structural tension between popularity and legal defensibility. That tension already exists at times, even with appointed commissioners, and would only be exacerbated by elections. Sometimes public sentiment and legal standards align, but often they don't. And based on my experience elsewhere, asking commissioners to serve both electoral accountability and legal accountability increases the risk of inconsistent decisions and exposes the town to greater legal challenges. I would encourage the Charter Review Committee to clearly identify the problem it's trying to solve by considering elections. If the goals are accountability, transparency, and greater public trust, I think there are ways to achieve those goals without politicizing decision-making or even changing the charter. Options could include clearer written findings, improved explanations of decisions to the public, better structured opportunities for public comment, or exceeding the state's continuing education requirements for commissioners. These measures would strengthen confidence and understanding while preserving impartial, evidence-based nature of the commission's role. In closing, Connecticut's appointed planning and zoning system ensures accountability to the law, which in my professional opinion is appropriate for a function that affects property rights. Moving to elections would risk undermining that consistency and legal defensibility. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer questions, but I think we have at least one more person.
You have one more?
Yeah.
At some point, maybe after the next commissioner speaks or next person.
It's not a commissioner, but yeah.
To whom does the P and Z commission report to in the state? Is there like some?
So the state has delegated their planning and zoning authority is given to states, and they delegated it. All states delegate it to municipal governments. I mean, that's generally how it's been done.
So there's no authority at the state level who.
It's the court.
It's just the court system.
Yeah. So I mean,
they
all
don't
of
have
our
their own planning and zoning kind of division, if you will.
I don't believe so, not that I'm aware of. I mean, in Portland where I worked, in Oregon, they have a state land use policy and legal system, but not here.
Okay, maybe Nick will handle it.
Oh, all right. Well, either way.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just jump in here. Hi, everyone. Nicholas Bamonte, town attorney. I mean, there's no state oversight board or authority that, supervises or manages local P&Z commissions. As it was stated, the legislature has given that authority to the local communities to establish those bodies, and they operate independently under that statutory authority. And then that authority or claims that authority have been breached are decided by the courts.
What about state statute on the same question? Is there state statutes governing anything here that's?
State statutes
State
governing
statutes,
planning
yeah.
and zoning?
Yeah.
Yes, there's quite a lot. I'll let Mr. Bamonte or Sarah talk
I'll just
about it.
quickly add in the documents I submitted to you all. I list the
Okay, good.
the statutes that.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
And if I could just add something, there is Todd Lampert. There is regularly decisions coming down from our Supreme Court and our appellate courts defining what is legal and what's not legal. And then the planning and zoning boards and the ZBA are bound to uphold these legal decisions. And they come down a lot. So once they come down, that's the law of the land. And we're governed by it.
Kathleen, on Todd's point, who actually makes the legal interpretation of what comes down from the state? Is it the P&Z board? Is it the staff, or do we have an outside lawyer?
We have attorneys. Mr. Bamonte is one of our town council.
I'm sorry, Bill, can you clarify the question? Who interprets what? What a statute says?
Well, I would assume the statute comes down, that when the P&Z reads it, I mean, not having read one myself, I don't know how in-depth they are for P&Z, but are there any questions? Are there anything that's subject to interpretation? Or is the state's articulation so clear that there's no questions? And if there are questions, who makes that interpretation or clarifies it? You or someone else?
There's always questions associated with law, and half the time the legislatures can't even answer them. So
Right.
yes, our office as the town attorneys serve that function.
Thank you. That was my question.
Let me give you another example. If the state Supreme Court comes down with a decision and another case comes up because there's an ambiguity in it, the court would again redefine it. It goes back to the court sometimes. And we see that where the Supreme Court decides a case, somebody doesn't agree or understand the decision, they bring another case and they'll redefine it if they have to.
Okay, we have one more. Is it just one more person before we go to Q&A? Okay, great. Thank you.
It's appropriate. I'm not on planning and zoning, but I did.
That's
already-
okay. That's fine.
And I apologize. Rob Frangione, Brand Engineering. Normally I dress a little bit more formally for these boards, but I'm also a track coach and track practice got over at 5 o'clock. So I had to kind of come as I am. So again, Rob Frangione, I'm a practicing civil engineer. I've been practicing for over 30 years, and I represent numerous times for commissions that are both appointed, like New Canaan and Greenwich, and those that are elected, such as Wilton and Ridgefield. I just reviewed the minutes of the December 2nd hearing, and I apologize that I wrongfully accused some people of being members of this commission. When I was reading the minutes and when I looked at who was there, to me, it just seemed like those were people in the commission. So I apologize for that. But it seems like, these people that spoke were concerned that the P&Z and the other boards don't listen to the tax-paying property owners and, accountability issues and things like this. And, nowhere in the history of mankind did someone say, what'll solve this problem? Let's add more politicians, because they always get things accomplished. The decisions made by Wetlands and P&Z have long-term implications that far outlast an election cycle. We don't want people to trying to get elected based on I'll bring change if they're prejudiced in their mindset and how they're going to come in and affect their deliberations. Our P&Z and Wetlands are already accountable to voters, just not by direct ballot. P&Z and Wetlands are granted their statutory authority by the Connecticut General Statutes, as you've heard, which are laws. P&Z and wetlands have regulations that must be adhered to. All decisions made by these boards must be made in accordance with the laws of the state of Connecticut, not based on the political whims of whatever party is in favor or in power at the time. If a commission member votes against an application based on political pressure and not on the regulations, their vote can be considered an arbitrary and capricious decision, which exposes not only the town, but also the individual commission member to liability and lawsuits. That's accountability right there. If any CRC member, any of the public, anybody doesn't like how our what's going on with the regulations, there's already a mechanism for bringing change, as was spoken to earlier. Any member of the public can come forth with a regulation and say, this is what I would like to change these regulations. Provided these regulation changes are consistent with Connecticut state law, it's highly likely that those regulation changes would be approved after careful consideration by the regulating body. Based on my decades of experience presenting before our land use boards in New Canaan, I think they do a great job. Like I said, I've been before other boards, and I tell you, the elected ones, you can tell they get contentious, and you wonder what's going on in the background that you don't really know, and you don't know, is there some political pressure? And the one thing you don't want is ambiguity in these types of things. You want to know that these are the rules, we play by these rules, and the decisions are made by these rules. I see no reason to change our town charter to make wetlands and zoning elected boards. It feels to me like we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. And with that, that was really all I had to say. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Maybe we're going to begin the Q&A sessions right now. Commissioner Redmond, would you like to come up here, or town planner Carrie? Any one of us?
Or both.
All of you?
It's fine. We don't care.
It just helps when we ask the question, you can answer it rather than having jump up and down. Okay.
Okay.
So Commissioner Pella, why don't you get started, and we'll
I
take
didn't
it
think
from there.
we'd be sitting like we were in a French restaurant. So I'm going to move a little bit over here.
I don't bite.
Well, in conversations with Kathleen, we want speakers that come before our group to feel like invited guests. And while we're not exactly going to serve wine and cheese, we are going to raise some questions. They're going to pressure test some of the things that you've said today.
Mm-hmm.
And to that extent, if you kind of look through the comments in the letter and some of the things that were said tonight, and you put them together and you discuss possible risks and more vulnerable legal decisions, things of that nature, is it your contention that if P&Z was elected, that the quality of decision-making would go down?
No, but there's no guarantee what the decision-making is going to be, whether it's elected or appointed.
Okay, so the quality of decision-making that would not necessarily go down if it was elected?
No, but their chances of the candidates that would be elected becomes riskier, because you stand the chance of having candidates who might be more vocal but not necessarily experienced. And the loudest voices in the room sometimes win, regardless of their backgrounds.
Well, one of the questions I was going to ask you at the end, but I'll ask you now, is a lot of the assertions that you make about elected versus appointed are interesting, but in the absence of any references, data, or any position papers, it's hard to substantiate any facts. So I would ask of your recent comments, what facts that we can use as we make our judgments that would substantiate many of the points that you made?
They're anecdotal. They're based on my
Anecdotal.
experience. Every one of the people you heard from tonight, it's based on their own personal experience.
And that's fine. That's fine. Just we understand that it's anecdotal.
So I'll just jump in to answer that question. As far as the fundamental fairness and all of those processes go, I mean, I'm happy to provide you with training that comes from the University
No,
of
I believe that.
Connecticut.
I believe that.
Can you let him finish?
Sure.
So, okay, I mean, we can provide you with documentation to substantiate the items about how the commission, acts with members of the public, and, where all of that information comes from.
That'd be great.
Can I just, just on that point, what were you referring to, the University of Connecticut?
So they do training statewide for land use board commissioners, talking about items like ex parte communication, fundamental fairness, how to properly operate a planning and zoning commission meeting. And these are the training that our commissioners are required to.
How often are they held? And how often do the commissioners have to attend?
So UConn hosts them, I would say 2 or 3 times a year. There's a statute requirement that land or planning and zoning commissioners attend these trainings once every 4 years.
Once every 4
Yeah.
years.
And then Bertram Moses also provides us pretty frequently with training documentations that I'm sure I could share with you all as well that talks about these items.
Do those training documents and regulations in any way differ for appointed versus elected?
No.
Next question I'd like to ask.
Oh, sorry, Joe. Russ just had a quick question.
I looked on the website, I could see currently, if you know off the top of your head, or roughly what the representation on the political parties of the current
Commission?
PNZ is right now, yeah. Rough, you don't have to be perfect.
Roughly, we have 9 sitting commissioners. We have 3 alternates. I think the breakdown is 5 Republican, 4, it might be 5 and 5 and 2,
Okay.
or 5, 4 and 3.
The reason I ask is, and by its nature, because unaffiliated don't have an organizing body to bring people forth, I was just curious to see if you felt that there was enough representation, or that it was, that people have, that the opportunity is there for those who perhaps are, and it's the largest party now in New Canaan, that they have the ability to get representation, or if that's something that could somehow be improved or adjusted.
It could be improved, but there's always that ability.
Yeah.
And I'll let the selectman speak for herself, but that door is always open.
Mhm.
If there's an independent that wants to come to the P&Z, is interested in a position, we're always willing to listen. To Mr. Papp's comment in his letter, and I've can reinforce that, there is no party affiliation when it comes to the P&Z. You can't tell who's what party and what, if there's some sort of an agenda. It doesn't exist. We go beyond that and deal with what our mission is, which is, like I said, we're curators of the town. Our goal is to make sure we maintain the character of the town.
And that sentiment has been echoed across several boards and commissions we've spoken to so far, so.
Okay.
I haven't
Can I
seen,
say one more thing
Yeah.
about the
Sure. Can you step to the mic though? Sorry. Just identify yourself.
So I am an unaffiliated member. I think I might be the only unaffiliated member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Okay. I can squat. And so I think one challenge that you would see if you were to elect planning and zoning commissioners is that you don't have a party machine behind you as an unaffiliated voter. So you really are disadvantaging unaffiliated voters if that's the way you go, because Democrats have the DTC and Republicans have the RTC. So just throw that out there.
Back to Joe.
Thank you.
Yep.
When we talk about towns that have elected P and Z, there are 17 towns in Fairfield County that elect their P and Z. When I listen to the types of things that you
There's
talk,
also 6 or 7 that are appointed.
I was gonna get to that.
Okay.
I was gonna get to that. Yes, there are 6 or 7 that are appointed. Danbury, Bridgeport, Norwalk, Stanford, Greenwich,
You can.
New Canaan. Thank you. And clearly, our peer group is the Westport, Wilton, Ridgefield type of towns that are about our size. When I look at the 17 towns, I see no news stories. I see no cases in the courts. I see nothing that indicates any of the types of shortcomings.
Westport? Have you read Westport News lately?
I don't.
You can ask our attorney on the phone what the news and the
Well,
issues.
one
Wilton's
town-
just gone through it with all of their affordable housing developments that they basically
No,
voted
no,
people out.
No, that, I wasn't referring to affordable housing. in the
Well, I'm
context. I
just
was-
saying issues.
Well, what we have in these 17 towns is they elect. And yet you are so down on that process. My point is, are these 17 towns doing it wrong?
They're doing what suits their town fabric and their makeup. When they started doing elected versus appointed, I know that was something somewhat recent for Ridgefield. They used to be appointed and went to elected. It's up to each town. And I guess each one of them determined that there would be some benefit to going to elected. Whether or not that's worked out for them, I can't really speak for them. I just understand that for our town, the appointed solution has worked.
One of the questions that a number of the presenters tonight asked is what would be achieved if we went to elected? And I'd like to give you, I think, a case in point that comes from the POCD. And the POCD on page 59 talked about green energy. And in particular, I think it's new this time around, emphasizes wind and geothermal. And in that discussion of adopting threshold standards, there's discussion that those standards at some point might become mandatory. This is the actual quote from the POCD, and that there would be incentives for developers. And my question is, there are 36 appointed people in land use who now are considering putting up wind turbines that would have standards that at some point might be mandatory. And if you say what could potentially be achieved, the question becomes, it might be nice to have some elected official that's accountable to the voters or responsive or could be recalled, as opposed to 36 appointed people. So there is, I think, a very direct example that comes directly from the POCD.
So I'm happy to respond to that. So I was heavily involved in the drafting of the POCD. In that chapter specifically, we had significant public input from, they were called like the Environmental Coalition, and it was a group of like 12 environmentally focused groups in New Canaan. And I don't want to quote it specifically, but I believe that one came from a recommendation from that group of residents and a coalition. And, the language is incentive. Incentives in zoning are not mandatory. They are options to get bonuses to, drive development if they do something else. So I just want to clarify that, nothing in the POCD is mandatory, which is something we heavily went through with town council when they were vetting the POCD. So I just want to make sure that that's not getting mischaracterized.
Well, that's not true. No, I understand. The discussion point was that the standards might become mandatory at some time in the future. That's what the POCD said. Didn't say they were mandatory, said it might become. And my point is, that's 36 people who are discussing, and wind turbines are much bigger than cell towers when you actually look at them. So if you are going to ask for a case of what might be different, I personally would like to have some representation into that process. I'd like to move on.
But how would your desire for representation change if you had someone that was interested in supporting your view? Wouldn't it be beneficial to have that person petition to be on the P&Z in the same sense as they would running for office?
I think that question is beyond the scope of what I was saying, because all I'm saying is that there's 36 appointed land use officials. And we know that recall and recourse is predominant reason why people move for elections. And so I'm just saying that's a lot of people potentially making a wind turbine decision, which could be mandatory, which is what actually is in the POCD. And I just raised that as an example to the question of what possibly could be gained. This is an example of what possibly could be gained.
Mr. Paolo, I have a quick question. Are you saying that appointed versus elected as a different measure of objectivity?
No, I just said what I said. I said that we have 36 people who are appointed, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the appointment process.
I'm curious, is the point that they're more objective if they're elected than if they're appointed?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't say that. I said what I said.
So two things. Hold on just a second. We're going to ask Commissioner Chris and just Commissioner Paolo, if you'd be so kind, just are these questions or statements?
I was responding to a question that was asked by several presenters that said what could be achieved.
Okay.
So I was saying here is an example of an answer to your question.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Chris and then we'll go to.
I have one more question.
We'll come back to your question. Let's go. I think he wanted to respond to something.
Yeah. This is John Chris, Planning and Zoning Commissioner, former chairman of the Plan of Conservation Development Subcommittee that focused its attention on developing that document, which is a series of ideas and recommendations. Nothing is mandatory, period.
I never said it was.
What I'm stating is nothing is mandatory. Things can become mandatory by state law. Look what happens with the Siting Council with cell towers, as an example. To the extent a state law is simply focusing perhaps attention on that, as it has on cell towers, it could be kicked back to a planning and zoning commission to set up rules and regulations in order to manage that. And that's something we need to plan ahead. This is called thinking a couple moves deep. Also, in the prior comments regarding benefits of a appointed, I would mention, again, Laszlo Papp, respected longtime chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, a respected person in our community, has said explicitly he has seen challenges with elected planning and zoning commissions. He was there and has put that in the official record. That carries weight with me, frankly. And we also heard from Mr. Frangione, who speaks to any number of planning and zoning commissions around the area and has made similar comments. So I think these should really weigh heavily on this commission when considering those matters. So that was my comment. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
And Mr. Powell, just if you can give Bill Perrette a second
sorry.
here. Go ahead, Bill.
Really, really an observation, I guess. I wish the members of the P&Z would recognize that, like them, we respect all of the deep, hard work they do in the processes to come to an answer. We're trying to come to an answer as well. And I know that based upon your comments, that you think everything's okay, but not everybody in the community thinks everything is okay. And so our job is to sort through this and come up with a recommendation. And before I was called for this to be on this commission, I had no idea this was even a question, elected versus appointed. But now that it is a question, we have to study it and go through it. And if you would just take it away, what some of the comments that John said earlier about members of the community agreeing, there are a number of things that maybe members don't agree with, one or two that I don't agree with. I think what Krista suggested as a way of going forward in communications to get input in her comments, no matter how this vote comes out, you all should embrace that, because we can always improve and we can always do better. And that's really my comment. You're doing a great job, but we can always improve and do better.
Right. Okay. Joe, your last question.
Last question. A central point in the letter that we received the other day, an appointment process allows the town elected officials to intentionally curate PZT with complementary skills. And then you list a bunch of skills. And that sounds really good, but some information came to us last week, which on its own didn't have any significance, but in relevance to your letter, I think it has significance. If you want to see it in text, I can offer you that, but I will read very quickly what this information was. Would you like this?
Mm-hmm.
During our meeting of Group 1 the 14th of last week, the group was discussing appointed versus elected. And information was volunteered to our group by the first selectman. And I'm now reading the first selectman's words. These are not my words. These are the first selectman's words. In practicality, there are many appointments. I do not know the people at all. I never met them. I don't know anything about them. I have to interview them. I have appointed many people I've never met in my life. They come to me, I interview them, they come before the board. I look at this statement next to the idea of intentionally curating, and I see them as contrasting. What do you see?
I think each one of these comments is probably completely accurate. And I think it's naive to think that the first selectman would know the backgrounds and skill sets of any candidate that comes before them, whether it be P&Z or any other commission. The point is the first selectman's role is to educate themselves and understand and learn from that candidate, have them explain to them what their background is and what they bring to the table, as I would. I'm not going to know the candidates either, not a single one of them, but I interview them. I drill them on questions that I know are relevant to being on the P&Z commission, and I wait for their responses and I evaluate them based on those responses. And some of them I've recommended not to be on the P and Z because of those responses.
Thank you.
Okay.
One real quick one.
Thank you. We'll go around and just
Yeah,
ask, go
yeah.
ahead.
I try to ask every,
Just state your name.
yeah, Russ, I'm sorry. I try to make sure we ask every group. Is there anything that you would recommend updating that would align better with state statute, with current policies, practices, language that is outdated or needs updating? Something I try to ask every group.
I can answer that
No,
quickly.
no,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I reviewed the charter for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I didn't see anything off the top that appeared to conflict with state statute. Things change on almost an annual basis relating to the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I recommend staying as broad and general as possible is ideal because things change every year.
So on that, somebody, I forget who said, but somebody said potentially have a 4-year term instead of the current 3-year term. And is that 3-year term, is that a state
John.
statute?
No, there's
It's
not.
not. Okay, so that could be, it could be longer, it could be shorter.
Correct.
Okay,
And we have overlapping, like not the entire commission is on the same cycle.
Right.
So there's overlap so that we're never lacking commissioners. Like right now, we have one open seat on the drawing a blank on the, not on the appointed, but on the
Alternates.
Yep. On the alternates. So we're looking to find someone to fill that seat now.
how do you go about that?
Again, like I
So you
explained,
go
we'll either have recommendations from the RTC or DTC on people they recommend.
So that, who sends out that sort of bat signal that says there's an opening here?
The RTC or DTC.
So that you reach out to their chair and then they spread out the word.
They learn pretty quickly that there's an open
They
seat.
have to learn on their own.
I'll get the emails pretty quickly.
Okay.
We've got these people.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll also add, so I've been with the town for 4 years. I've had 3 residents email me directly saying, hey, like I'm, in the planning field or the architecture field, and they reach out to me directly. And all 3 of them have ended up on the boards afterwards, and they knew no one in town politics or anything like that. So just to speak to the appointment process from my own perspective.
You're also a commission that has 3 alternates. That
Correct.
seems to be working too, right? I
Yes.
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And 3's enough.
3's enough, and it's a clear protocol. If a commissioner steps down, moves out of town, or something happens, we elevate the most senior alternate into that position, regardless of party affiliation, just moves up. And then we fill the alternate seat.
And that would also have to go through the approval in terms of requirements of the Board of Selectmen, I believe, has to approve. Is that right? Or they automatically go
yeah.
up?
Yeah.
So the interview process really happens for alternates more than regular members because we never really have regular members that were never alternates. So it's most important during the alternate
Okay.
process.
Okay, great. Those were my only questions on that. Judy.
Are all of the members
Judy
in,
Neville.
I'm sorry, Judy Neville. Are all of the members on P and Z in compliance with the training that is available?
Currently, yes,
Is it required or recommended?
it's required.
Is that in the charter? Because I don't recall seeing
It's
it.
in state statute. It's changed twice in the last 4 years. So again, I
Yeah.
don't recommend putting it in the
You
charter.
mean
'cause-
the requirement to
Correct. Yeah, they,
attend it?
Keeps moving.
Because I started this and I thought that was mandatory. It was
So not
becoming
through-
mandatory.
so
It's not?
it wasn't through state statute up until 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
That I'm aware of. And then it's recently changed a little bit. And I think they'll keep it for a while, but I'm not sure how it may change in the future.
Because that was true of the police too. I was asked the same thing of that, if we're still doing that. What can we do better in terms of awareness in the community of the legal decisions that are made that affect especially a large group of people like St. Luke's? What are we doing and what can we do better? I think
Boy.
communications is huge. It's not, please, I'd like to know if that.
So I listed, this is Kristen Nielsen again. I listed a couple of things in mind, like I said, that didn't necessarily require a charter revision. One of the challenges I see is that most people don't really pay any attention to what we do until something is happening next to them. And that's when they get obviously involved, and we want them involved. But it's a steep learning curve. Like, what we do is very legal in nature. And so, I mean, I think about what could we do to better educate the community so that when the time comes, when the project is next to their house, they know how this process works and they're not coming to it cold.
But we
And I mean-
still notice all the neighbors.
Yeah, we notice all
That's
the
required.
neighbors.
Just to be clear, the applicant notices the neighbors, the
Oh, that's true.
town, the
Okay.
town is not,
Well,
it's the applicant's responsibility, not the
But
town's.
you post notice of the hearings.
Yeah.
We post them in the
Notice of the
newspapers.
Yep.
All of our applications get posted online on the planning and zoning department page, usually a month in advance. So it's there if you look, but
I don't know if
You have to
people
look.
understand the process. And I have thought, like, well, should we do, a series of public meetings on here's how the planning and zoning process works so that when the time comes, but I'm happy to do it. I just don't know how many people would actually until it's next to them. And then they want to know. I mean, I guess we could have those recorded and they could come back and watch them at any time. But like I said, it's something we do every single month, and we've been doing it for probably, 80 years. I don't know how long we've had a planning and zoning commission, but a lot of it's not really high on most people's list of things to do. And our meetings, they go long. Most
Very
people
long.
don't just
They
want
are
to
very
come
long.
sit through a meeting to see how the process works until it actually really affects them. So I think, I'm open to ideas, but I think there is a bit of an uphill challenge here. But I think if you guys come up with something, we're all ears.
There's also what we face a lot of times with larger, specifically institutional applications. You brought up St. Luke's. There's a lot of history there that many times neighbors don't understand, are not aware of, have not been in town long enough to know it, and need to educate themselves on the history as to what's led up to certain decisions that we've made based on the previous history of St. Luke's, for example, the evolution of the school, the growth of the school, the parking, the traffic, the everything. Everything's taken into account in our decisions. So we as a commission, we can't expect to make every single neighbor happy every single time.
Oh, of course.
It's just unrealistic. We take the evidence that's presented to us within the applications by the professionals that are making the presentations on behalf of the client or our peer reviewers on our side, and we weigh the evidence of what facts are presented to us to help make our decisions based upon state law. Period.
If I may.
Please, yeah.
Oh, about further comment, if I may.
Comment, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner John Criz, Planning and Zoning. I think there are many ways to get the word out. Our decisions, particularly major ones, are covered heavily by the press, frankly, which is good. Our First Selectman's new, notes from Town Hall mentions this, as well as openings on boards and commissions, including for unaffiliated, which again would be lost as a practical matter if there's an elected planning and zoning commission or other boards and commissions. That would be, all that talent goes poof, which I don't think is a good idea. But there's all sorts of other ways we do reach out. So for example, Commissioner Nielsen and I and Chairman Rabin are on the zoning review subcommittee where we're doing a lot of heavy lifting on that. There are going to be a series of public forums as part of that, as well as surveys. When we did the plan of conservation development, given that it's every 10 years and it's a reasonably big deal, one of my goals was that I want to be sure that the word gets out. And so we did everything, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Carey, but we had not only a survey, but we used the OEM distribution, which is a pretty big one. And we were told by our consultants that if you get a 2% response rate, it's pretty common. 4%, you're really doing well. We had over 11%, which they couldn't believe. We had, as mentioned earlier in this commission meeting, we had a series of a dozen environmental groups get together and speak with us, which you listened to. We had a specific forum on historic preservation and environment. We had one on housing. We had one in our downtown, try to bring people together and focus attention. And we had other meetings beyond that. We're happy to Ms. Carey's door is always open. Maybe it's sometimes too open for her taste, but to answer questions from people. So I think, we're trying to, knock on every door we possibly can, including distributing during the information in the POCD. I said, well, let's contact all the charities. Let's send something to them. Let's contact the houses of worship. They have a lot of very good distribution systems and try to leverage off those. And I think it worked reasonably well. So there are ways to do it. We're doing many. If there are other great ideas, we're happy to steal great ideas from people.
Thank you.
I thought that was handled very well this time.
Yeah.
I paid attention. I thought it was.
Let's make sure that we get everybody else having a chance.
Thank you.
Just given time. And I think Commissioner Parent might have to jump off, but so let's go. So we're going to go to you, Commissioner Holm, and then to Bill in case he has to drop off, and
Sure,
we'll
of
finish
course.
up the circle.
So I actually did some analysis of other elected P&Zs in Darien, Richfield, Westport, and Wilton. And I'm happy to share this with you. I'm sorry, my printer has gotten a little wonky all of a sudden. But I noticed that in these P&Zs, that the bulk of them were actually attorneys who were elected. They had essentially in Darien, there's 6 people who were elected. 2 of them are attorneys, 2 are real estate brokers, and 1 is actually a real estate executive who works, I believe, in commercial real estate. And then was one who was an ex-CIO, CTO. So I would say that over probably 83% of the people on that board have land use experience or at least touched land use or legal experience.
Because they're an attorney doesn't mean they're experienced in land use.
True, I agree. I know that well.
Same thing with an accountant or.
Right, but I didn't count them an accountant towards that.
Oh, okay.
Right, there are 2 attorneys do have some land use experience, yes.
Okay.
I also looked at Ridgefield. 7 of the 9 commissioners have at least touched or had some influence on land use. For instance, 1 was an architect. We have 3 attorneys in Ridgefield. 1 is a civil engineer. Another one's an executive, a real estate firm. So what I'm trying to sort of get to is you say that you have specific curated experiences, but also too, doesn't the electorate also have that ability in this venue and it still serves a purpose to satisfy land use needs?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's a benefit to that as well. But my point was when it's an elected position, what you stand the chance of is the most vocal person that's running for that election might not have the right experience and is elected into a seat they shouldn't be in. And I personally have had that experience in Westport and Ridgefield in my life as an architect. I've been working at this for 35 years. I've been in front of those commissions where I can tell you there were commission members on their commissions that had no right to be there. Didn't understand planning, didn't understand land use, didn't understand area calculations or overhangs or anything that might affect zoning. But they were elected into those positions. That's my own personal experience.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Bill.
Dan, I listened carefully to what, your team said. It's consistent with many of the other appointed officials have said. And I actually just trying to search for truth here. So my question, and I'm not saying what you're telling me, I'm sure is truthful. I didn't mean to imply that.
Sure, no, understood.
But with respect to if we went elected, do you see any benefits in that at all?
No.
None whatsoever.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just add to that particular question. If we were to decide that it was up to the voters to decide, that we can't seem to reach an agreement, we have differences of opinion, et cetera. How do you feel about it going to the electorate to decide? What are the challenges there?
That'll be for you to determine the challenges, but that's for this commission to determine. I just want to remind you, this entire commission, the CRC, is an appointed body. You were all appointed because of certain skill sets, background, history with the town, experience, to be on this commission for a specific reason. We can only leave that to you. We can sit here and try and make our point and express to you what our opinions are and what our belief is in terms of the best way forward for the town. But in the end, we end up leaving it up to you as to how to steer.
Or the electorate?
or the
Or
electorate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The electorate.
Or we dissolve at a certain point, is what happens to us.
We have asked and not received a legal opinion on whether or not there could be a split elected and appointed. So we will, that's a big consideration if that's even allowed. So
You dissolve, but you were specifically selected by the town council because of your credentials to be on this commission.
I agree.
I see no difference.
I actually do, because I'm limited then to one, whatever this body of work is done. I'm not ongoing,
But your work will be.
but that will be determined by the town council.
True.
They take that forward. Not us.
We
Recommendation.
we shouldn't debate this, but we have term limits, 6 months.
Yeah.
We have a term.
a year.
It's actually a year, you guys.
Yeah, Todd Lampert. Dan, first of all, thank you for everything you do and your whole committee. It's great work, regardless of what happens here, and we really appreciate it. Just want to clarify one thing. Regardless of whether or not your position is elected or appointed, the remedy of somebody that's aggrieved by your office gets to appeal that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the same remedy no matter what
Same
happens, no
process.
matter who sits there, right? So that being said, if you were to tell us, and the answer may be nothing, what's the biggest drawback you would see to being appointed, if any?
I don't see a big drawback.
Okay.
Selfishly, I think the benefit is that we don't have to involve ourselves in running for office and spending money to be elected into a position which we know we can work in.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Chris? Agree?
I'm just trying to get clarification on the comment that was made earlier, which I don't understand. So it was clearly said that the commissioners are not permitted to have communications with the citizens on pending matters and no ex parte and so on. And yet Commissioner Holmes said that other towns don't seem to worry about that.
Westport allows you.
So,
That's not true,
so
actually.
what's the
You have
story?
the email address of the gentleman. who-
I just texted Paul Leibowitz, who's the chairman of Westport Planning and Zoning, and they say they discourage any type of communication. While they do get communication from residents, which we do as well, I get volleys of emails, and I can guess that some of you know who they're from. But I always defer and say, please contact the town planner. And that is the protocol. And that is the protocol in almost every town.
Because how many unsolicited messages did you get during the library debate?
Oh,
For
messages
example.
or threats?
Anything you want to describe them as?
Many.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Very
like
many.
everybody lobs in what they want to say. I don't think that that's a restriction, and especially not in this town.
Like I said, as a planning and zoning commission, we're never going to be able to make every resident happy. Not only with a broader effort like a zoning revision, but on specific applications, there's always going to be a neighbor that's not going to like what the decision was. That's inevitable. All we can do is do our best to follow the laws and the evidence presented to us to make an educated decision and determination.
So I think we should strike from the minutes the earlier comment that other towns permit communications between the citizens and the
The only thing I said was that
and
Westport
the,
allowed it.
and the P and Z, with implication being that it was a back and forth communication as opposed to
Why
just
don't
somebody
we
lobbing
make the
something.
following, why don't we just investigate it further?
Well,
That's it. We'll.
Other
the
towns
same-
besides Westport. I
Yeah.
think we need
We can
to.
just reach out.
No,
I mean,
wow.
just, I'm interested further in what town planner Carrie said in terms of the description of why you ask that everything goes through you rather than going direct to the commissioner. And you sort of stated that as a state statute that you abide by. Is that fair?
So it's not a state statute, and I think Attorney Bamonte can probably explain it more succinctly than I can.
I could jump in, Sarah. Again, Nicholas Bamonte. Yeah, we're also town attorney for the town of Westport. So I could definitively say that we do not encourage zoning commissioners to have back and forth private communications and engagements with members of the community. We certainly advocate for as much transparency as possible, but legally, my concern is particularly where there's a pending application or there will be a pending application in the near future. It's something called predetermination. It's something called bias. Opponents to certain actions or decisions that a zoning commission makes will use whatever advantage they can to file a lawsuit, to file an appeal. One of those grounds for an appeal is this concept of bias and predetermination, which can be demonstrated by those very kinds of one-on-one communications, 1-on-2, 1-on-20. If a P&Z commissioner is out there talking to the media or making social media posts, that all lays the groundwork for this sort of a claim in an appeal, which is why legally we do not advocate for that sort of an engagement.
And I just want to clarify that it goes for neighbors and it also goes for applicants. Like if an applicant wants to apply to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they're not contacting Dan. They're contacting the Planning and Zoning Department because it's supposed to be a fair two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, and the attorneys.
But I have a question. That's only limited to pending or in process applications. But if someone had a complaint about, backup of traffic on this road and yet this is what's happened, can they reach out and directly do it to both of you?
They
There's
do.
a zoning enforcement error and
They probably reach out to all the commissioners, but the default response is for that question, please refer to Sarah Carey, our town planner, and she can steer you through that.
So funnily enough, there's this listserv in the state of Connecticut for all planners that I'm a part of. And right now, one of the active email chains going on is whether land use bodies across Connecticut should allow comments exactly like that at the beginning of commission meetings. So exactly how you all have public comment at the beginning. And there was a lot of debate in the listserv of whether planning and zoning commissions should allow that or not. And, we always defer to the attorneys at the end of the day, because the argument is that exactly the example Commissioner Holmes is talking about, when they make their decision. So let's say someone complained about the St. Luke's traffic and they used an example of, I got into a car accident 5 years ago. Then let's say 10 years down the road, there's an application about St. Luke's traffic. If that commissioner heard that comment and then they use that to make their decision, and that wasn't something clearly stated in the record, there's a chance that the commission's application could be overturned and that the decision's basically a no-go because they were making a decision based on evidence not in the record. So it's a slippery slope with exactly what you're talking about. And we like to be more careful based on our advisement from town attorneys to protect the commission and the town from more lawsuits.
I have a quick question. This is Karen Willett. In that case, how do elected P&Z even work? Like, how do they even get elected if they can't talk to anyone about what they plan to do without fear of having to recuse themselves from every decision that's made for their entire term?
That's a great question. So frankly, I don't know if you want me to make this comment or not, but I live in one of the towns that you all have analyzed that it has an elected planning zoning commission. I like to think of myself as an informed voter working in local government. When I have to go and vote for who's on the Planning and Zoning Commission, Inland Wetlands Commission, I'm kind of confused at the polls. I don't know enough about these people. There's not enough information out there unless you really dove into decisions they made in the past. If they were, it's definitely a concern.
We skipped over Steve. No, that's okay. That's a good question. Go ahead.
This is Steve Case. I'm going to take a slightly different round of questioning. I mean, there's a lot of other commissions and boards in New Canaan whose actions can be affected by the planning and zoning. And I'm just trying to check off a few. There's a Blight Review Board, the Conservation Commission, Historic District Commission, Inland Wetlands, Parking. How do you work with other commissions, and is there a way to improve the relationship between planning and zoning and the other commissions that are appointed by the town charter?
Typically, any one of those commissions, if there's a particular application or an initiative, POCD, for example, that we're working on, we will directly engage with them, have meetings with them, bring them to our meetings and exchange. Sorry?
It's group to group.
It's group to group. And it depends on, it all depends on the situation and the application or initiative.
It's also staff to staff. So in the
That's-
commission's case, they have a staff person similar to me. So the two of us are doing the communicating, between each commission. So I think especially in boards that have dedicated staff, it's a very simple, seamless process. A little more complicated when there's no dedicated staff person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess my follow-on question is, can that process be improved? And that may not be tonight, but
Yeah.
if you guys can.
We can think about that. Absolutely. Always willing to improve.
Yeah,
For sure.
how the charter could help improve that
Mhm.
inter-commission communication
Mhm.
where there's an interdependency.
Absolutely.
If you could make suggestions to us.
Yeah, we can come back to you with that. For sure.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, I'll just do one more round. Any other outstanding questions? We did say that if we have any follow-ups, there are only, let's see, there are 7, elements of the article on planning and zoning, but also others. If you have any technical suggestions, you want to clarify anything?
Just the
please get-
language.
Yeah.
Yes, please. get
Like
back to
Sarah
us.
said, there was
Sarah.
nothing.
Yeah, and in particular, I think communication, if
Mhm.
anything, has been kind of the thread that we've been hearing from everyone in terms of how do we improve that. So if you think about that, whether it's reference, and there's already references here to it all, you are operating in accordance with general state statutes. So to the extent that education or anything, if we can just clarify that a little bit further, make that a little tighter, I think that would be helpful as well.
Certainly,
Okay,
because
yes.
Dan, you've been through how many different administrations that you've been in charge of P and Z? A lot, right?
1, 2, 3,
Three or
4,
four.
5.
At any time during any of those administrations, have you ever felt at all, or your members felt any political pressure to decide any matters in any
No.
particular way? Never.
No.
Okay.
Frowned upon.
Yeah.
At least not that I know of.
Yeah.
You
no.
never know what goes on behind
I didn't
closed
think so. I
doors.
just wanted to ask that. So
No.
appreciate that.
I think that's, I'm proud of that. And right now with our current commission and all previous commissions, but our current commission is very strong. We've kind of evolved into the next generation of commissioners, right? Look at the commission 6, 7 years ago. We had a lot of older members on the commission, which was fine because they had been there for a number of years, like Laszlo Papp and others. They've since either left the commission or aged out, which is fine. And the commission that we currently have is I'm proud of the depth of knowledge and the bench that we have, the level of expertise that we have from different facets, whether it's land use to architects. We have 3 architects on the commission. We have attorneys. It's enough of a blend. And then we have a number of people, developers, Bill Pratt who's on the commission. He's involved with the he was involved with the country club, right?
Yep.
He was involved with the country club and oversaw the management of the renovation of the New Canaan Country Club and liked the process so much and was so interested in the process of what the country club had to go through planning and zoning that he expressed an interest to coming on to P&Z, and he's now one of the alternates on P&Z serving, and he brings very poignant and very pertinent questions to application discussions. And that's the kind of candidate we value and we want more of.
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming that during the interview process, there's safeguards to ensure that members that want to join your commission aren't single issue type applicants, right?
Yes.
And what is that part of your interview process, or?
It's part of my interview process. Sarah talks to them as well. We look for the first selectman to also have her level of questioning on that. But in my sense, I'm trying to gauge what their agenda is, right? You're looking for someone who's coming to the commission without an agenda, who's looking to contribute to the town for the betterment of the town and be open to all points of view, whether it's affordable housing or zoning rewrite or the POCD. You don't want someone that's coming to the table and saying, well, I'm completely against affordable housing. I never want to see it happen in town.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard discussion to have with a commission member on an application. You want someone that's going to come to the table open-minded.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much
You're very
to
welcome.
everybody who participated on this, really do. And thanks for all the work that you do
Absolutely.
on
And
behalf of
thank
our
you
town.
for all your work. You've got 6 months ahead of you.
A year of it, total.
November.
I wish you luck.
Thank you, appreciate that. Let's just say, just to remind everybody, the next regular meeting of the CRC is Tuesday, February 3rd, same place, same time. There is a reason that we have this place. It doesn't always seem convenient for everybody, but it does work for us that we're all working around a table here. So it does work, and it also doesn't interfere with other meetings that are happening in other places in town hall. There are a number of group meetings that are being held over the next couple of weeks. Check the agendas, because there's a listing of all those, if you can attend or participate via Zoom. And if you can't on any of those, you can also look at the recordings, which are also posted on the website. Any other comments?
Is it town council on the next one?
Most of the things
them or
similar, town
Okay.
council. Yeah,
All right.
anybody can attend.
Anyone
the
else
town.
on that night?
No, but
Good
we're
to
going to be
know.
getting in, we're going to
Yeah.
be getting into some
Oh,
of the
yeah.
things that each of the groups have been going through. Okay. Obviously, if you have any other input for the agenda, let me know, and we'll make sure if there's time, we'll add to it. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So move from
Second.
Ross, second from Todd. All those in favor say aye. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time. Thank
So
you.
Karen, tomorrow, 3:30, we have 3 people tomorrow, right?